What's going on, listeners? Welcome to the latest episode of Can I Kick It FC. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and is joining me is the guy that is feeling the pain of Jamaica not doing the best in World Cup qualifier. It's Mr. Dennis Chen. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. Struggling to watch Jamaica in World Cup qualifiers, so yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, especially with all the high expectations, these Premier League guys coming in and this and that, and it's just been been brutal.
Yeah, look, man. I was so excited when they said we were going to have like Leon Bailey, Mikel Antonio, and then all of a sudden it's like Leon Bailey blows out his hamstrings. Mikel Antonio get told no about West Ham. I'm just like, yep, there goes the World Cup.
Yeah. And we were so dependent on the hype, it just kind of caused like an issue in a team as it is because people are like, oh, these saviors are gonna come in, and they just never came, and then there's no responsible like players ready to lead at that point.
No, not at all. Maybe they need to call you, the super agent. You could probably give them a good 20, 30 minutes here and there.
I'm giving him a little couple of something. I mean, I just brought in Nico Bailey. Let's see if they can. He should get a call up. But yeah.
That is true, man. But before we talk about where you're at now in your life, let's kind of start from the beginning. You started off as a player, definitely like take us through like those Orlando City days when they were in the USL. Like, how did you get there? How was your experience? All of this stuff.
Well, I was finishing up school at the time, and I was supposed to be this like coming out of high school, this big D1 player, and I ended up at a small D2 school, and I was supposed to only be there for a semester and transfer to Duke actually. And then I just decided to stay because I was having such a good time. And I didn't really thinking about playing professional soccer at that point. I was having fun playing. I had a pretty decent career, and at the end, my senior year, I was like, I don't want to stop playing. You know what I mean? I want to see what's out there. I want to try. My family wasn't really happy about that. They were like, hey, just chill, do grad school, get a real job kind of thing. And I was like, all right, just give me like 6 months. Let's see if I can make it in like 6 months. You know what I mean? So I started kind of training.
Sounds like the traditional Jamaican family.
Yeah, like they don't believe in you unless you show some kind of like urge. They're not gonna believe it. You just see it. So I started training with this it's called Spectrum Sports Performance. They still run it now, and it was just like kind of like performance training. It wasn't like ball stuff really, but it's made for like top athletes and then some guys that were training in my training group were like. One or two of them were pros in soccer. One of them like Sporting Kansas City or whatever, and were the Kansas City Wizards at the time. And another couple of them were just guys that wanted to be pros. So I was like in a good spot. And then Orlando City got announced that it was coming to Orlando, and I was like, oh great, this is an actual pro team coming to my area. That's gonna be great. But in my head, it's like. They said they were bringing a lot of the guys from Austin because they were bringing it. The team was from Austin, so I was like, I'm not gonna really get a chance there. I'm just gonna train and try to go on trials in January, and then somehow I get my PDL coach was putting together some kind of like special training with 12 college guys. And they were just gonna go on the field, and then Adrian Heath was going to come out there and watch, and see. And then one of the guys got hurt. So he invited me to take the place of one of those guys. So I come into this trace and I'm just coming to train. And it was like possession, like small possession. And then it was like a 6v6 game. And then after that session, I guess Adrian said that he was interested in me. And then I was like out of nowhere, out of every person, I was the only one. And then one day I was just training, and then I got a call. I was like, hey, you want to come to preseason with Orlando City? Out of all the players. And I was like so pumped. And my mentality going into that was like, I'm just going to be this like practice player. I'm just going to learn as much as I can and last as long as I can before I get cut. Like that was my thing. I had elite pace, athleticism. I was always like a dribbler. Like I was like, I can handle some pace. I go in there. I was like the only young guy there. Like everyone else was like vets. So I was just like bringing pennies, washing pennies. They're telling me I was going home and washing pennies for the team. I was like pumping balls every day. Like I was doing every one of those bit of work, but like what a team admin was.
It sounded like you were on water boy duty.
Yeah, I was like literally water boy, and I was just loving it. My attitude, I was smiling every day, and everyone was liking it. So it was just for me. And then it comes down to the end, and I was just every week I lasted, and I lasted, and I lasted. People were getting cut all around me, and I was the one lasting. And finally, they offered me a little dinky old contract, and I was like, oh, I made it, like this 1 year deal. And then we didn't have enough players, so the first ever, I don't know if you know this, but the first ever Orlando City game ever, like an actual game, like our first preseason game was against Philly Union. We won, blah 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 blah. That wasn't real. Our first real game ever was against Richmond Kickers away.
Wow.
And I was on a trip. I made the 18 as a rookie, and I went there and it poured that game, and we lost 2-0. Orlando City's first ever game to Richmond Kickers. I don't know if you know that. And I remember being in the locker room after the game, and Adrian was furious. And he was going around to every player on the team and told them why they were terrible. He was like, oh, you couldn't even keep the ball to save your life. You. And he got to one of my Haitian friends. He's like, you can't even speak English. He was just ripping me. And he gets to me, and I didn't even touch a minute. I didn't play this. I warmed up. Like, that's all I did. He goes, He goes, I didn't want you to be a part of that for your debut or your professional. And I was like, true. And it goes around and like that. I didn't touch and got any real minutes until the summer when Open Cup. It was Open Cup, and I was like, let me play me. I started my first game, scored, got 2 assists, and then they're like, this guy. I've been listening and learning from all the vets the whole time. I was only one of 2 rookies on that team, and then they're like, this guy can offer us something. So after that, they started giving me like 5-10 minutes at the end of the game. I just run as fast as I can, pressure everyone. And then by the end of the season, the last game of the season, I scored. And they're like, I had some momentum. And then we played like Charleston Battery in the quarterfinals. And then I scored in overtime to win it. And then we played Richmond Kickers again in like the semifinal. And I scored again to win it. So I scored 2 goals leading up to the finals as a substitute. And they were calling me the super sub, blah, blah, blah. So we got our revenge of the Kickers, blah, blah. We won the regular season easy, but like, you know what I mean? And then we had our first 2011 finals when it was like crazy. We got down a man in the 50th minute. We scored in the 85th minute. Harrisburg scored, made it 1-1. We go to extra time. They scored, made it 2-1. And then the last minute at extra time, the last period, I get fouled in the box. We get a penalty. We tied it 2-2, and we win the penalties. So my first ever professional year, I won a regular season USL title and a championship. So moving into my second year, they were like, this guy can do something. And I got a 3-year deal with Orlando. So that's when I kind of, gave me 3. And then new one was getting 3-year deals back in those days. So
I was going to say, that's kind of unheard of in like lower division soccer. So they must have really believed in you.
Yeah, so this was 2011, 12 too. Like, you know what I mean? Like 2011. So I'm like, I was like buzzing. I was like hometown guy. I was seeing my stuff around. Because Orlando was well supported. Like we were the team. Like it was MLS teams and us. And they were making it sure that we had 12,000 fans and the things, and then as a first year team, at that time no one was getting fans. Like the MLS team was getting as much fans consistently like we were. And so going to the 2012 year, I killed it. I was sharing time. We had 3 strikers rotating, and I won a Golden Boot sharing time with 3 strikers. So I won a USL Golden Boot. I was MVP, top 3. And that's when my career really started, like, kind of getting like, all right, this kid can do something. At the end of the season, there's tons of people asking me to go on loan. I went to Chicago Fire, supposed to go on loan there. It fell through because DC United had my rights that I didn't know of. Then I went to DC, and I ended up the season with DC United, even though I was an Orlando City player because they wouldn't let me go. So this was always this big pull for me. Go to the 2013 season. We lose. The only regular season we ever lost in the USL in my 4 years in Orlando was the Richmond Kickers. When you guys had that like 17 game unbeaten streak, but we not like 19 game unbeaten streak, but we had a 18 game unbeaten streak. And we lost by like 1 point this season. I remember that. And then we lost. Oh no, that was 2013. We lost, you know, the regular season. That was 2012 or whatever. And then that Dom Dwyer year when we won 7-4 in the championship, I scored 2 and Dom Dwyer scored 4. Anyway, moving on. After Orlando City, my 4 years was there and my 3-year contract was up. They were going to MLS. I made it real clear in 2012, especially that especially when I started getting MLS offers for loans and stuff, that I wanted to leave. And that was my first real thought. I was like, listen, I've learned what I need to learn here. I wanted to go. I won. At that point, I had a golden boot already. I had USL title already. I had USL regular season. I got a conference title already. I was first team all league. I wanted to like experience something. And I remember they just let me go on loan to like San Antonio. See, I was like, they didn't let me like do anything. And my agent was at the time like said he wanted to stay. And it kind of deteriorated. I was still scoring goals 2013, 2014, still scoring goals, but I would never wanted to go to the team to MLS. So I made that really clear. And it was stupid. Looking back at it, it's stupid. It sounds stupid. But at that time, I was thinking Europe. Like, that's always in my head.
Because I was going to ask you about it. I was going to ask you, why didn't you want to make that transition with the team to MLS? But like you were just mentioning Europe.
Yeah, I was like Europe. Exactly. I was like, I want to go to Europe. That's exactly what I was saying. I was like, at that point, I was considered the fastest player in America. I feel like it was only me, Dominic Aduro, and like Marvin Wayne. That was like, so I was like fast. I was scoring goals. I was like, I translate well in somewhere in Europe, right? So at the end, like it was like kind of messy. I didn't like how the transition from USL to MLS went. It was that 2014 season. Our team was stacked. Like I've never been on a better team. Like guys on that team shouldn't have been on a team. I'm talking like we had James O'Connor, who was the vice president of Louisville right now. We had Rob Valentino as our captain, who was just the interim coach of Atlanta United just recently. We had Anthony Pulis, who's right now is assistant coach at Inter Miami. We had Darwin Serrano, who's the captain of El Salvador right now, and he's at Houston Dynamo. Kevin Molino, who's at Columbus Crew, like, you know what I mean? And he had 20 goals. We had Austin Deleuze, he's at NCFC, North Carolina FC legend. We had Brad Russin, he played in the Vancouver Whitecaps and all that kind of stuff. We were Corey Herzog, who's still scoring goals in the championship. He's probably at 80, 100 goals right now on the team, so he's still playing. We had Adama Ndenge, who ended up playing for Senegal in the World Cup 2018. We had our team was like player for player stat. So obviously we ran we ran through. We were an MLS team in the USL in 2014, and somehow we lost to Harrisburg Sea Islanders 1-0.
That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes.
It's crazy, man. So like at that point, I just didn't. It was like the team was transitioning, blah blah blah. Kaká was coming in. Kaká was training with the team. Breck Shea, all those guys are already training with the team. And then I went to Denmark. So I went to Denmark, and I thought I was like, oh, Europe. I was here. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be good, boy. Was I mistaken? I was not ready for that. It was cold. I was miserable. I felt homesick. I lasted 3 months until I.
So hold on. Let's back up. You went to Denmark and you didn't realize it was cold, sir?
I'm thinking football. Like I'm thinking like I'm just gonna go kill it. Like everyone just thinks like football. You're not thinking lifestyle. You're not thinking. You know what I mean? Like I got there and the fields were not what I expected. Like you thinking you thinking Man U. You thinking facilities.
You're like in Florida that moves to New York with just flip flops and be like, I'll be making work.
Yeah, like I'm thinking like that. I was not prepared. I was slipping and sliding on here. I was looking like Bambi on ice. Like I was like, what is going on? I was like, I'm not doing as I'm not doing as good as I didn't get through that transition phase. I talked to my agent. He's like, Cosmos wants you and Phoenix wants you. And I was like, I'm going to Phoenix. Because I was like, I'm going straight to the Heat, bro. So like I came back. I was shaming myself at that point. I was like, I made this big deal. I should have went to the MLS thing. Like I'm back in the championship. That was one thing I didn't want to touch is USA. I was like, no way. I was right back where I was, was before. And I was like, I'm gonna kill it again. Like trash season. We had didn't do as good. Then I ended up in Ottawa in the NASL. In another stacked team, probably one of the most stacked teams too, with tons of international players. And somehow, because we had an Israeli international player on our team, teams in Israel saw me, and then I kind of forced a mid-season transfer.
Oh, come on, I gotta hear this. How did
you hear this story? I'm not gonna talk about especially what it, but me and my agent and my agent's a good friend. My agent's the best. Shout out to Edamar Keenan. He is now the GM of New Mexico. Just announced now. So he transitioned from agent and now he's in the player personnel. He had a player personnel at New Mexico United, and that's a great club, obviously, So I was at Ottawa. We had a great team. We were very underperforming. It was one of the places where the team was amazing off the field. Like we were vibing, we were going out, everything was good. On the field, terrible. And we had top players. We had Julian de Guzman, was the most capped player in Canadian history, played in the Bundesliga, blah, blah, blah. We had James Bailey, he was coming from Derby County, from championship. We had Danny Mwanga, who was at Philadelphia, he had that name. We had Johnny Steele, that was playing for Red Bulls and Vancouver Whitecaps. We had like maybe 4 or 5 Canadian internationals. And we were playing NASL, and we were last place. Until we were trash. I don't know, we could, I'm not going to say anything. But anyway, I was like, I dislike it here. What can you do? And he's like, one day I was driving, we were on the bus back from somewhere. He's like, hey, a team in Israel is really interested in you. But obviously under the contract, blah, 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 we've got to play this the right way. If we come to hard, they're going to ask for crazy amount of money, and it's not going to happen. So basically, we kind of had to force it that Danny Mwanga got signed and Tommy, two forwards were getting signed. So I was like, oh, perfect. This is the only time a forward's like, yay, come take my spot. You know what I mean? So we waited until the team was doing well. We had a stretch where they scored goals and I was playing he put me a right back. So I was like, yeah, let me play right back. Look, you got these great forwards here, right? So we went to them with that, and then we said, hey, this team is, and we can put in some buyout. We can put in clauses where if they sell me there, you get 60% of the transfer fee to the next club too. We're putting in all these little clauses. And he's like, oh yeah, this looks good. Our team's already good. Obviously, I found my strikers now. They need you, that kind of thing. Blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, it's going good. So going good. And then so basically, I started packing up my stuff. He signed the papers that basically transferred me to Israel. He signed the papers. So I was like, let's go, bet we're going. And then he said to me one day, we did bad. He goes, you're not going anymore. We need you to go play against Tampa Bay Rowdies. But I was like, at the time, I was supposed to go to my new club. So without telling anyone, I basically took a flight home to Orlando and hid out. No one knew where I was. Wow. No one knew
where I was. Sneaking out there in the middle of the night.
Yeah, just was gone. Only my roommate took me to the airport. Kyle Porter, he's a Canadian international. He's still playing FC Edmonton right now. But took me there while my agent kind of talked to him listen, he's not coming back. Just get over it. You already signed the papers, And I was just in Orlando training by myself till the time because if I would have won, then I could have risked injury, and then the deal would have fell through, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of forced my way. Pretty much disappeared from my team. And we had that year we had this wall of fame / shame. And like so many players got transferred that year. they would take your name tag off the locker room and put it on the wall and like RIP, like an RIP wall. And then I knew I was done when I got like the snap that said I was on the RIP wall and my name tag was on there. I was like,
oh my god.
And I ended up going to Israel. I loved it. I played really well. The first half of the season, they said I was the best form player in the league. And then our team, which was like a lower budgeted team at the time, so I was the main guy. They were like, hey, you remember Orlando City when you were like the best club in the league? This is not going to be that club. You're gonna have to do all what you do plus tax. You're not gonna have the help you thought you're gonna have. You're gonna have to pass the ball to yourself basically and score. Like, you know what I mean? So I had to do everything. So we were doing well. We were sitting third at one point, and coming into halfway in the season, our owners got mad cocky. Our owners like, yeah, we're gonna survive, no relegation, because they were expecting like a relegation battle. So they started selling off players on our team. So we only had 3 foreign players on our team. They sold our like best Bosnian midfielder, like mid-season January window. And I was like, there was like bigger clubs like interested in buying me. And I was hoping I was gonna be that guy. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, like I'm talking to my agents. Agents like, oh, you don't want to leave now? You want to leave the summer window? I'm like, no, this is the time. They're selling it. You're out here selling it.
Yeah.
Dude, they were just getting rid of players. By the second half of the season, we were so bad that we started tanking. And obviously, guess who gets the blame? The foreign striker, the DP, you know what I mean? So he was like, they was out here. I couldn't go out in my own city. I had to like, I had to go out in like another city if I was going to go out. It got pretty bad. Then our coach got fired with like 5 games left in the season. Yeah, and he brought me in, and then I was like, I kind of boycott me and the other foreign player that he brought in, so we didn't even play the last 5 games of the season, and then they just kind of tarnished my name there. Yeah, they kind of tarnished my name there, so I came back to Orlando in the off season that summer, and I was training with the first team. I was training with the MLS team at the time with Kyle Larry and Dom Dwyer and all guys that I knew really well. And I was thinking like, oh, should I come and try to play them? I was over 30 at this time, you know what I mean? And I should go back to Israel, and I had offers from clubs in the USL, and my whole thing was never touching foot in the USL again. Like I told you, I just got like, never touching foot in the USL. So it comes to that summer window, and I had 2 deals to go back to Israel, and somehow they fell through, and I was stuck. And that January window, the USL season obviously is ending. So I basically went from July to November for December with no club. And it looked bad, obviously, bad. So I had a 6-month period with no club. And then so when the 2018 season started and Pittsburgh came along with oh yeah, this, I jumped on it. I was like, I just want to USL it is. I jumped on it. And then they hyped it up, this big signing. I was coming in confident, but I hadn't played football in months, you know what I mean, and because I missed the last 5 games in the last season too in Europe, and this big signing to save the day. Bob Lilly brings it in. My first day, I only signed the end of preseason, right? My first day training, I'd never been injured really. Made in my career, maybe some muscle injury. Did my ankle. Out for 4 months. And I was trying to come back. Within that time, I was trying to come back the whole time. So I was looking like a bum. I was out here on one-legged training, trying to play. And they're like, wow, this is the guy that you brought in. I can only imagine now I talk to guys there that is good. Nico Brett was on our team. He was a striker. Guys that you probably know, Counter Forbes and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not who I want to represent myself. But that humbled me. I became more of a leader in the locker room. I was I've been there, helped young players. And that got me to Europe, basically to Richmond, right? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, at that season, I was like, all right, I'm healthy again. I need to prove myself. I go to any team that really prove myself, and then preferably the championship. And then Richmond came along and said, oh, you can do it here. And, you know what I mean? And that's how it happened. And then obviously it didn't go as I know, but I still like at the end of the day, I played. I wasn't hurt a lot, and I played some good football at times, and I was just disappointed in the level of at the time of League One, and I was disappointed in certain things. But like overall, really like my time at the Kickers. Like I really, really, really like Richmond. Um, I like even my wife said she loved it. Like she loves it. And everything. So and obviously I was played a big part in getting like a good player like Joe Gallardo there. So that panned out, you know what I mean? And that kind of a transfer to go obviously the USL Championship, and that game, that transfer money got back to Richmond, and so I was always helping players throughout this whole time, mentoring players in the off season. I ran camps in not camps like training things in the off season in Orlando where pro players will come, MLS guys, whatever, and I'll run it for free. And then that's where I get my training, and I'll just run sessions. So I was always around, and I would just invite like young academy guys that I thought had talent, or college guys that I thought had talent. So I was always like around the next generation, who's coming up, and had a big role play in those new guys. And so a lot of the homegrown guys that are on Orlando City right now, at some point I coached them, or at some point they came through that off season camp. So I was like, all right. When I was kind of thinking about transitioning in the pandemic, I was like, all right, where do I go from here with all this? Do I be a coach now that I had that little player coach thing? After I left Richmond, I was like, no way I'm going to be a coach. No way. I was like, not touching that. I just didn't see like professional coaching is just like so hit and miss. Like there's no like consistency. Like you know what I mean. You can do well one season and everyone hates you the next season. And like I like people to like me. I like to do good. So, I don't want to burn those bridges. So I'm like, how else could I play a good part and stay in the game? And obviously, like the player representation side kind of got brought up because my agent was like, yeah, you're good at this. You're good at finding talent. You're good at seeing where people fit. You're good at mentoring. You're good at this. And like now you've got these connections for playing the game. Like you'd be perfect for it if you wanted me to join him. And I felt it took a lot of convincing because I hate the sliminess of the game. I hate the backdoor business and this and that. I just dislike it. So that's why I was saying, hey, I like to do it for free because then I'm not trying to come over on you. But now when you're actually a business, then you're like, oh, yeah, you're supposed to have some kind of, make some kind of money off it. Like it kind of didn't sit right with me at first. So I had to get my mind around, can I do this the right way, my way, when I actually care about people and make the right connections and do the things the right way? Is that even feasible in this market and this world? And I figured out a way to do it, and then I went full steam, and here it is now.
So it's one thing I want to ask you about whole list of you were talking about, and one thing it was like one thing that kind of kept popping up about just certain moves in your career. You wish you would have done things differently. Obviously, you now being a player, being an agent, how do you go about advising your players that you have underneath you to navigate the right way, and also like let the listeners know like you have your own sports agent now, Chin Sports, right?
Yeah, so it's Chin CHYN, and then like there's a sports division, and then obviously that's the spread. So we're doing that whole thing, you know what I mean?
I feel you. I feel you. But yeah, like how do you navigate? How do you help your players navigate that next move forward and things like that?
So I've been through a lot. Like there's like regardless of the level you play, there's certain things. There's a certain thing like a mindset you need to have to be a professional at anything. I don't care if you're gonna be a scientist, blah blah blah, whatever. You have to have like some kind of care for your craft. You have to, you know what I mean? But in sports, especially because it's such a small percentile and everyone wants to do it, every little kid is like, oh, I'm gonna be a professional. Right? There's a lot of kids come in thinking it's gonna be this like their vision is gonna go how it's gonna go. Like, you know what I mean? They're gonna come in, break into the first team, score and kill it, and then they're gonna go to Europe, and then they're gonna win the Champions League, and they're gonna win the World Cup. It's like this whole vision. So this is oftentimes broken very quickly. Because at the end of the day, when you're really young and you get into that locker room and everyone, these guys and your families, mouth to feed, you can't. It's just talent is not enough. You have to have some kind of grind like this. I knew. I was in the locker room and I've seen it where some older players would break young players just for fun, like would just like break them. And I was never, you know what I mean? I was never part of that, and I started defending it. That's why I had good relationships with a lot of young players. But I try to prepare my guys for everything. Mainly, the mental aspect of the game is the biggest because you have to balance expectations with reality. At the end of the day, you think you're this kind of player, but not everyone sees you as that player. Like you're not producing at the level of this player that you think you are. And one thing I hate is not accountability. Like people are like, oh, I'm not playing because the coach doesn't like me. Oh, I hate that. If you're so good, it don't matter who likes you or who not. They're gonna put you on the field because they want you to win. Like they want to win. That's my point. If you're so close, like you might be a little bit better than someone, right? And you keep it that coach, then yes, the coach can make a decision like, yeah, I like this guy more, you can play. But that's not in your control. Once in your control, you should not be that close. You better pull away. And that's what when young players start making excuses, squash that because those excuses don't get anywhere. So yeah, I try to keep my guys accountable. I try to guide them a certain way. Obviously, I don't believe that I'm the only one that can get them to where they can go. I mean, if you have the talent enough, and that's what we're trying to look for, the top talented players. If you have talent enough, you will get there at some point if you do the right things. Now, I want to make the path easier, and I want you to have the support. Whether your dog needs to find a vet and you're in Richmond, you don't know who to talk to, and I call up a guy and say, hey, like, you know where a vet is? That makes their life easier that you can focus on football. Now, a lot of other agents, and a lot of other places that, they're just in it for the contract negotiation. They're there for you, like when you're hot, they're there, like, oh yeah, you want a deal? Like, let's go talk. It's easy to talk to a team when your player is the best player in the league because everybody wants you, you know what I mean? But how do you navigate that when you're not? When they have a broken leg, when they, you know what I mean? Like, for example, Riley Kraft, you know that name, right?
You know that name very well. You know that
Yeah,
name very well.
Riley Kraft is a guy that I've always been a fan of, and even when he got brought into the end of the season, that 2019 season, because I was like, I was like, you gotta win this guy. You listened to me at Joe, bring this guy in too, because he was at Orlando City B with Joe, and they were, those are guys that I saw when I came back. So when I came into this and started chin, like he's one of the guys that he's in my friendly with Joe. We're always talking in group chats till this day. So like I was like, if you want a person I believe in is me, and you want to leave, that he was like already done with his agent, and he left. And my thought process for him was, what do you want to do? And he's always wanted to play in Europe. And I found a pathway for him. Talked to some clubs in Spain. They were interested, and he was going to Spain, and he broke a bone in his foot. So he broke a bone in his foot in January, comes back, broke a bone in his foot in June, right before the window. So think about his mentality. Think about like all the hopes and dreams and everything you have. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss football for a year. Like, how do you manage that? Like, you know what I mean? That's the hard part about it, and that's what like I'm here for. Like, I don't. Yeah, it's great when my players are scoring hat tricks every game. Hey, that's fun, but you have to be there for that. And he's done well. He's fought himself back. He's back fit. Trying to get sorting out some things. We'll see in the future of how that plays out. You'll see very soon. So he should be back, in the mix. But like that's what I mean by it. You know what I mean? Like things happen in football. Like he's never gotten hurt in his life, and all of a sudden he's about to miss a year in football. You know, he's a very talented player. So I think that's what we try to do. We try to guide you whether you're broken, blah blah blah. But my biggest thing is that I don't sign anyone that I don't believe in. And this sort of makes my job really easy. You know what I mean? If I believe in you, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in yourself sometimes because I'm going to push you through. You know what I mean? But if I was doing it for just a deal, like if I just doing it for like, oh, I'll get some commission money here, like I'm not gonna be you're not as motivated to do it. So I don't want it.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that. Um, I want to ask you this too because you are like a black player, but what are some of the difficulties that you experience being a black man in that space of being a player agent? You know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I know any player agents that are black that have their own agency. That are not African, because obviously the Africans, they have their own Indians things over there, or
yeah,
French that are in France. But in the US, I don't know any really, and I mean it never scared me because uh, the fact that I knew it was going to be difficult. It's not a space that what I mean. It's like a lot of the owners, why there are a lot of the sporting directors, blah blah blah. I knew that coming in. Like it's not something I like. I like a lot of people have that chip on their shoulder, like like I said, just like I use my players. Like it's just like I use it just like I would play the game. Like what can I control? I can't control this. I can't control the that I'm black, right? I can't control that. But what I can control is that I'm gonna do the right work. I'm gonna make sure I got the right reputation and find good players, and you know what I mean, and communicate well, and be very professional. If someone calls it, answer. If it's this, and make sure the contracts I'm negotiating it's true, and this, and that's gonna get me where I need to be. Well, obviously, there's gonna be some times where I can't break through that ceiling because of maybe this and this and this, but I figured that I would cross that bridge when it comes. And I'm hoping that because I'm younger, that and I have this this like naivety and this this is positive the vibe around it, that like it'll get me through, because I've always, regardless of everything, I've always been a very good people person. So this is the one thing, all right, and this is the reason why I decided to do this on my own, is because I felt like this is the one thing that I could have in my control. I can build as fast as I want to. I can build as slow as I want to. I can approach any team that I feel that has the same values as me and my players, and I can choose not to. I don't have to do business with anyone. They don't have to. You see what I'm saying? So it keeps me true. Whereas if I would have, maybe jump in the front office somewhere and there's a culture in that office what I might not agree with, but I have a check coming in and I have a family, you know what I mean? I'm gonna have to like, all right, I'm gonna have to set this up a bit, but I don't have to do that now. I mean, it's hard work. I don't expect to be just off the door profitable. If I thought that was the case, then it's not the business for you, and you're not just jumping and all of a sudden signing Messi and making millions and millions of dollars. I think that's a lot of people have that thought. But I'm doing it this way because I don't need that money now. I'm trying to build something that has like structure for the future. That yes, it'll be profitable. And yeah, we'll have the good time. But for now, it's just do the right way, do the right thing, and then when that time comes, I want to make sure that, like I said, that we're so good at what we do, and it's so well run that it doesn't matter. They're gonna have to take it seriously. You know what I mean? Just like I said, yeah, just like I said to the players, if you're so much better than that other guy, you're not keeping it close. If you're so much, what are they gonna do? Hurt their business by not doing business with you, or what are they gonna not put you on the field and hurt their team? And that's how I vision it. So if I have that, then I'm always in control. There's no excuses. There's no one putting any shackles on it. And that's why I that's how I vision it.
word, man. Look, man, just listen to you. It's so good to hear because it's like, no, like seriously, like it's so good to hear that not only as a black man, but it's like you're taking ownership, you're taking control, but you're also like mentoring, giving back because in your own playing career, like you said, like I was too young to realize that I should have stayed in MLS and not try to push Europe too early. And that's a lot of things that, here in America that the fan base try to push on players. It's like, oh, bypass MLS, just go to Europe. Where, you got to be realistic. It's like, Europe isn't set for everyone. And,
Yeah.
everyone thinks like, oh, when you go to Europe, you're gonna play in the top 5 countries. You're gonna automatically win the Premier League. Whereas like, no, like you're gonna have to earn it. You're gonna have to grind for it. So it's good to hear that there's agents out there like you, particularly you, like that are giving these guys real life experience and real life expectations and goals.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, for example, I have a player right now. I actually brought into Richmond, Darren Sana, but he's a baller. He was 18 at the time. He's now 19. He's turned 19. He's a youth international. He got called up to the first team already at 19 for his national team, and he has interest in French and Ligue 1 already, and he could have easily. All right, so I spoke to his parents and stuff, and I brought him from the Caribbean to live with me. Why? Because obviously I saw his time. The boy can play. The boy is already playing. You can see his talent, right? Darren saw his talent. 1 minute in training. Darren was like, "Please let me have it." So, but what I was going to say is that boy could make a jump to Europe right now, especially at his age, 19 years old. But what no one knows is this: he never even used a microwave before. Like the guy can't do his laundry. He never had a bank account. Who's gonna teach? Like you're gonna ship him off now. Ship these players off, big money. Oh yeah, this money saves everything. You're gonna go to say he goes to even France and they speak his language. Like a lot of his French speak his language, right? Say he goes to France, right? He's gonna go from a small place where he was poor, he didn't have anything, and he's gonna go with that huge kind of culture shock. All of a sudden, money in his pocket, da 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 da. He never knows how to cook before. His mom listed a lot of stuff for him. He never does his laundry. Like, what is that kid's mindset like? Now, is he focusing on training every day? Like, who's there to talk to him about that? Who's there to help him? Like, he's just going in, you're just throwing him in the fire. And then if he succeeds, it's because he's talent. Yeah, maybe on his top. But if he gets an injury, his mind is going to be gone. Like people are not looking at all the details that go beyond just jumping out of. Like, these kids are kids. You're 18, 17, 19, 20, they're kids. If you're not mature, or you can be 18, 19, but if you have the right support system, you can do it. But if you don't have the right support, you're not doing it. Like, the thing about it, you have to realize a lot of those European players are thriving in Europe because that's their culture. You're a Premier League player, right? You're probably coming from a Premier League academy in the same country, you've gone through the levels. Like, you've seen other guys do it. Like, there's like even in the US, there's not many guys that have done those jumps successfully. So, like, you know what I mean? So you can't just like go, like, people just are just jumping into it because it's the American mentality, right? We always think we're gonna like just jump in and just do it. It's gonna happen. But I like, in my eyes, there's thought process. So for this boy, I said, all right, you bring him to the US, right? It's close enough to his home country. You know what I mean? There's gonna be cultural influences. I make sure every club that he's gonna look at has an area where there's his people around, where he can go and get his food, from that store, blah, 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 blah. And that's very important, like, stuff like that. I make sure maybe they speak his language or culture, you know what I mean, how it is. You know what I mean? Maybe a player on the team already is from this country. You know what I mean? And I trust that guy. And most importantly, I trust the coaching staff. I trust the management to not abuse the situation. Meaning, like, yes, he might be young, maybe he's talented, but everything can be on his shoulder. You can't crush his spirit. You can't, like, this is, at the end of the day, you're still a boy, right? You're still trying to make it in the world that you don't know. You're still making the transition. And if all those things are right, he's going to come over here. He's going to ball out. And then he's going to have the maturity of a year or so away from home. You know what I mean? Playing good football, playing, week in and week out, or not week in and week out, knowing how to fight for his position in a system where it was not at home at all. And then you make the jokes. You're so much more. You know how to you have a bank account. You know how to drive a car. You know how to use a microwave. You know what I mean? You know how to handle yourself, and you have the person behind you. So if anything goes wrong, you say, "Hey, this is what I need." Da da da. And that's the path what I see for my players. Now that's not for everyone. There's another player from the same country. He's 3 years older and he's played two Gold Cups already. Right? Same country. He speaking to him, speaking to his family, and I know when I've watched his game is a lot more mature. His mindset is a lot more mature. He can make that jump straight. So you have to know that each person is different. You can't use the same pathway for everyone. And a lot of agents and a lot of people try to use the same for everyone because it's convenient. They're like, all right, I already have a connection with this club, right? Just put him in this club, and they've already pulled out a guy. Yeah, they've shown a track record, yeah, but maybe it's not for this player. So, like, for example, Christian Pulisic, and I know his dad because Mark Pulisic was my coach at Pittsburgh. I don't even know that. So, Christian was a kid that had it here. He went over, he had support, he was in the academy, he had no pressure on him because he went to the Dortmund Academy for a little bit. You know what I mean? He did his price. He was a good place where they played young pros, they played young guys. That was the Dortmund plan is that if you're good enough, they're going to mentor you, you're going to get your minutes, they're going to build your profile, and they're going to sell you to a big club in Europe. Right? That was a perfect place for him. Now, if Christian Pulisic would have went to the Premier League straight away, he's already having a hard time in the Premier League after years in Europe. Imagine if you would have just went at 17. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's very true.
There's no real there. So my thought is that I'm going to try to, it might be wrong, I'm going to try to give them the best chance, a higher probability. Like, you know what I mean? You might do all that, build your profile there, build here, and then you go over and you still don't make it. But you know what? You already showed that you can play in the USL or the MLS, right? You can only come back. People are going to, but you know, if you made that jump at 17, 18, and you don't get any minutes there, you fail, what are you coming back to? You know what I mean? Like, you have no base, you have no foundation.
Yeah.
So there's different ways to look at it. Like, it depends on the player, it depends on the talent. Like, nowadays, people in Europe, a lot of people are looking here. People don't even know it. Like, obviously, you see Busio, you know, Tezeman, like, guys are leaving MLS clubs like that. Even in Champions League, look at Jonathan Gomez. People are looking in the US now. So a lot of opportunities are out
there. Yeah, that's true, man. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, this has been like a very insightful and dope conversation with you, man. Like, it is very dope. One last question I want to ask you, man. Just, you're very cool with you know, a lot of guys that you brought into Richmond. I mean, it's kind of funny because you went from super sub to now like super agent. Like, how are you handling that now? You know, being that agent and stuff now. Do you miss playing, or are you kind of just like?
So this is my thing. Like, for me, I could have kept playing. Like, and it's one of the things that I want to do when I always set these like mental goals, and I always tell my family this. It's like, I wanted, when I come into player pro, I didn't just want to be 1 year, 2 year kind of guy. I was like, I want to be a 10-year pro. So that was one of the things, like, I want to be a 10-year pro. And I was past 10 years. So we're getting there. So I set that path away. And then the timing for this transition was where I needed it to be. Like, it was perfect. Everything was falling in place for that. I had options to keep playing. Obviously, still fit to keep playing, but like, my mindset and this is just how my mindset is. I've switched to focusing all my energies towards the next step, which is helping these players, developing these connections. I use that energy differently for on the field. Like, I still play for fun from time to time, but it's not like, man, I need to go back on the field because these guys, a lot of people, when they retire, they have this like animosity towards the game. You know what I mean? They have these things like, I was out there, man, I would have been better. And then they keep these comparisons, these old head comparisons, we call it. Like, the old head, like, oh, yeah, look at these youngsters, man, back in my time. Like, I don't have that. Like, I give my generation the props. I give this generation the props, and then we just keep it moving. Like, so I don't look at it that way. My biggest thing is this: I would never want to be big time. There's times when I was a player where I would reach out to, say, coaches that I knew or GMs that I knew, uh, and they would just be like, never respond. Like, you know what I mean? Like nothing. And people I knew really well. And maybe they figured that I was gonna ask them for a favor. And a lot of times, like, I would never ask you, like, put you in a position. Like, I had like a lot of my ex teammates retired before me with big time position. I was never gonna be like, oh, please bring me into your club, like, because then our friendship is gonna be different because you're gonna be like, wow, I can't do this, and I'm gonna feel bad. Like, I never wanted to put myself in that position, but like I stand for that. I try to like keep it like I'm just try to keep it humble. Like, I'm a guy that anyone can approach. I've always been that way, and that's why I get along with so many people, right? So if I have people from all over the world send me tape and ask me to represent them and blah blah blah, I make sure I answer every single one of them. Like, I don't care if you're a Facebook guy that says, hey, like sometimes a player from Africa is like, hey, you involved in football? Look at me. And you know what I mean? And people are like, oh, like, it's gonna waste my time. I try to not be big time. So that's the one thing that I like that I try to do. Whether I'm making billions, I'm this billionaire, if you come up to me later in the future, I'm not gonna be like, oh, can't talk to you. I'm gonna like, but I've seen that happen. I've seen so many people get big time. Friends of mine, like good friends of mine, that they've reached different levels in their career. Like, I'm not a player anymore. I'm a coach. Or I'm not a coach. I'm a GM. So you can use it as you talk to me as such. Like, you know what I mean? No, you're the same guy. Like, you're the same guy that I knew from before. And I try to keep all my relationships like that. There's respect that I have for you, but you don't have to take it to that level that, like, you know what I mean? And that's just how I try to live it. There's nothing about me that's changed in that aspect. It's just that my focus, this grind that I had to play, to wake up every day and play. I had a passion for football. A lot of the things we do at Chin is to find people's why. Like, why do you play? And the people are afraid to say they play for money. Right? Some people pay for money. Like, you don't want to say it. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you pay for money. You're a mercenary." Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like people I see Messi like, "Oh, you should play for free for Barcelona." Like, no. Like, some people want to be that financial, security. And obviously, he's at a point that he doesn't need that anymore. But it's still the a principle, right? I don't know why he plays, but I played for pride. Like, some people play for hype, to be famous, blah, blah. And that's why I'm not huge on social media and stuff like that compared to a lot of guys in my position who would be blue checked up and thousands of guys showing my abs on Instagram. I was just never into that. So I played for pride. I played for the respect of my peers. So once you knew that I was a good player and your team, and you knew that, I'm a good guy, I was okay with that. I didn't need to get paid $100 million for that. You know what I mean? I didn't need to chase that like that. But I still respect the guy that says, "Hey, I want as much money as I can when I can get it," because it still matters that you can't degrade someone's reason of playing. Like, you know what I mean, of living their life. Like, yes, it might be like, like, it might be sound bad to you because you're thinking like money corrupts and blah 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 blah. But no, it's just how it is. And some people play for their family, like, they're playing because, like, their family is proud of them, or they want their family to be proud of them, and blah blah blah. But so I think that, like, once like why you want to play, the pride and the respect, and that's where I keep it like that. Like, that's my motivation still in the agency world. Like, I want people to respect what we do, respect our players, respect me, and have the pride in that we're trying to do things well, and we're gonna make mistakes. Things are gonna happen, and just to know that intent, and then everything will be good. But
well, man, before we wrap this up, we're gonna play a quick game. I'm gonna ask you like 3 questions called this or that. It's real simple. I'm gonna give you two options. You tell me which one you would choose. So the very first one, oxtail or curry goat.
Yeah, you really that's a tough.
I know. And look, as a Jamaican, I'm over here like, hold on.
Right, it's crazy. All right, I'm an oxtail guy. I'm a curry goat guy too, but I'm gonna go to oxtail because it's just when you go to oxtail, it's just different level. Like more people can make curry goat. You know what I mean? Because you can't really mess it up as long as the curry is good. You know, you can really mess up oxtail. So yeah, I'm gonna oxtail.
All right. Next one. Redo your year at Richmond Kickers or um redo your year at Ottawa Fury.
No, Richmond Kickers. Oh, like live it over again? Like
Yeah.
do the same thing over again?
Yeah, redo it.
Oh, that's a tough one, man. Oh man, that's a really tough one. I would say Ottawa Fury just because of the fact that I was so much more naive and younger then, and I wasn't thinking about. By the time I was in Richmond, I was like the pressures of, oh, should I be this coach? Should you know the player? This, and I had a great time. I love Mika, all them. I love those guys there. Bulldog, like I love those guys. But like in Ottawa, I felt like I was free. Like I was just like I was still younger, 29. But like you know what I mean. I didn't have that pressure on like in my head. My football career was still like rising. You know what I mean. You know, now off the field. You know, I was just living like this lifestyle. Like, I don't know. I think I would redo that year.
All right. Last one, man. Have Jamaica qualify for a World Cup or have Jamaica win a Gold Cup?
Qualify for the World Cup. I was there. I was living in Jamaica in '98 when we qualified, and the energy. Dude, we were off school for like 3 days. People were just like the pride in the nation was just unmatched. Like people were just hugging strangers. I don't think people got killed for once. Like people put
That's a big thing, Jamaica. That's a big thing.
They're big. Like people are putting their guns down, like shooting them in the air instead of like at someone. Nothing beats qualifying for the World Cup. It's just a different stage, a different level, and like for a lot of nations that always qualify, they don't. You know, it's not the same. You know, the pride is not the same.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, there's only been 3 times the Caribbean nations that have been qualified ever. Haiti in like '86 or '82. My history. Jamaica '98, and I think Trinidad and Tobago in 2002.
I think 02 or 06. I think
02 or 06. I can't remember.
I think
but those are the 3 times, so it's a huge deal. You make that jump, it changes the economy for a nation. It is crazy. So Gold Cup, we could get lucky one time and win a Gold Cup. You know, we lost the finals one time, but we ain't touching a World Cup that easy because it's so much qualifications, everything has to go right. So it's harder. I would say World Cup.
Yeah. Well, man, we just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day for joining on the show, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Of course. Well, as always, listeners, you can follow the show on Twitter at CIKIFC and also on YouTube at Can I Kick It FC. So as always, I'll holler at you guys later. Be safe and be good.